Well, Chris, the beginning of the Hoke era has to be considered a success by just about any measure. 10 wins, a victory over the Buckeyes, and a return to the BCS stage here, really for the first time since 2007. Still, the message struck by the senior leadership has been 10 wins is not enough, and a loss tonight to Virginia Tech could negate much of what they've done this season. Bowl game at all in 2008 or 2009 and a year ago was embarrassed in a 52-14 loss to Mississippi State. Given that, certainly there'll be some nerves and to a degree a chance for validation for this senior leadership and the senior leaders, the fifth-year seniors of this class, Chris.
When you think about Frank Beamer's teams, he doesn't mind winning with defense and special teams. Now, they left their place kicker at home because he had a B&E, a breaking and entering, so he didn't even make the trip. Then his backup, Tyler Weiss, this guy, he got suspended, sent him home for breaking curfew, sent him home via Greyhound. So now that leaves them Justin Meyer, their kickoff specialist. And by the way, he's 0-2 in field goal attempts. So like I said, Kirk, with a team who prides itself on special teams and defense, this is an interesting storyline to me. It may come back to haunt them tonight.
You're right, Frank Beamer. You think of Frank Beamer, right away you think of special teams. Exactly. And now to be in this scenario and this big a game for them is interesting. The other thing I think about Virginia Tech that I'm paying close attention to, I was in Charlotte. I watched Virginia Tech play Clemson. I saw how well Clemson played and how David Wilson could not get on track. He only had 11 carries, only 5 in the second half. If Virginia Tech wants to move the ball at all, they've got to find unique ways, different formations, move him around, whatever it takes. Get the ball into the hands, maybe the most dynamic playmaker aside from Denard Robinson on the field, and David Wilson. Throw it to him, direct snap, whatever it takes, get him 25 to 30 touches tonight.
Statistically, Michigan's defense much improved, but we'll see if that holds up against Wilson and Logan Thomas. On the other side, Denard Robinson and the Michigan offense, 116 points scored in the last 3 games, so they've been humming. Another entertaining shootout in the BCS bowl game. We were 2 for 2 on January 2. We'll see. College game day, much more on this matchup at 7 o'clock Eastern time. We'll count down to kick. Only about a dozen sacks allowed by Michigan all year. Desmond and Kirk are back. How will Bud Foster's defense defend the dual threat of Mr. Robinson?
Well, I think first you have to acknowledge that the development of Fitzgerald Toussaint has been very, very big to Michigan's growth as an offense and has been really the best friend, I think, to Denard Robinson and making him a more complete player, now a threat running and throwing because defenses have to pay attention to Toussaint. I think in this game, Virginia Tech has been depleted with injuries on the defensive side. They're kind of their alpha, Bruce Taylor, is out for the year. So they've relied more on safeties and run support. You're going to look at the Virginia Tech safeties in this game. They've got to overcommit to Toussaint and Robinson. Try to make this Michigan offense one-dimensional where Michigan's back there 3rd and 7 in obvious passing situations, and then they can get pressure on them. If they allow them to have success on 1st and 10, it could be a long night.
You know, I spoke to some coaches at Clemson. They told me that the way that Bud Foster tried to defend Taj Boyd, their quarterback, who was a dual-threat quarterback too, was try to use the robber technique. Use one of those safeties that Kirk talked about, have 4 across that kind of confuses the quarterback. He doesn't know which guy's going to be the robber, and then drop him down, and he's going to spy on Denard Robinson. That's a technique they tried to use with Taj Boyd, but Clemson had a very, very successful game against Virginia Tech. But I think that's what they're going to try to do, at least at first.
Put that plan in the shredder.
The Hokies defense, you're right, though, with a point to prove. Denard put his paperwork in for next April's NFL draft. We don't expect this to be his last Michigan game. Do we just one of those formality things? And that caught people off guard.
I can't imagine.
Wow.
Unless he's going in as an athlete.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys do some stuff. I just didn't know if it was a signal. You haven't heard anything. We expect him back next year. I'm just saying.
Tell us?
All right, we'll see. Denard Shoelace Robinson against that Hokies defense.
Leading that, and that's one argument on whether or not a team deserves to be here. And then there's the actual reality of getting your team ready to play a football game. Frank Beamer should be thanking people and motivating his team because without a doubt, Virginia Tech will take this field with a major chip on their shoulder. We've seen it in this BCS era since '98. When you look at games and you think, okay, this team shouldn't be there. This team is way better. They should win the game. And then the team that's the big underdog gets motivated and they win the game. Think of Utah in this building against Alabama. Kansas won an Orange Bowl a couple years ago when nobody gave them much of a chance. So this to me has the potential, kind of that feel where it's the debate of whether or not they should be here is over. They're here. They've prepared. They've heard about how they shouldn't be here. I'll be shocked if the Hokies don't play with a great deal of inspiration.
Yeah, and when you look at Michigan on the other side, this is a team that nobody thought was going to be here. This is a team that you're picking maybe they go to a bowl game. Brady Hoke, a new coach, new offensive coordinator Al Borges, new defensive coordinator Greg Madison. This is an extremely great coaching job to this point. This is a motivated team. You know, you go to a more pro-style offense. Just the turnaround for this Michigan program. Now moving forward, you beat Ohio State. You beat that streak of 7 years. Very impressed with this Michigan ball club. They got a lot.
Tech, they have been depleted with injuries, especially at the second level. Therefore, they've had to play a lot of these hybrid guys, like Eddie Whitley, who's a safety. He's been asked to step up and make plays and run support. So you're going to see a lot of guys that are in that 5'11", 210, 200 pounds to 210 being asked to be up and run support. They're going to have to be disciplined.
Fresh off that Alamo Bowl, whatever that was, against Washington, 123 points. You get the opposing defensive coordinator fired. Congratulations.
Coach calls me 3 stacks.
Does he really?
You know, at the Heisman, Mike Rogers called me 3,000 the whole time. So everybody seems to connect me to Andre 3000.
Really?
I don't know. What I tell people is that the door for track is not closed, but I'm certainly not running through it right now. As long as I'm able to run, you know, well into my 40s, track will be an option.
The big boy is
My head coach, and then I'll sit down with agents and see
what factors will play into the decision.
You know, the biggest thing that'll bring me back is the fact that my teammates, they really need me and they want me back, and I have to take that into consideration.
Greg Madison, what he's been able to do, because there's not a lot of new faces. I mean, you got a lot of the same faces that grew up, that run a system now. You got playmakers that are walk-ons in the back end, that Jordan Kovacs that's done a great job. But you see the scheme, they confuse people. They do a great job disguising. But this Michigan defense, to go from 7th or 108th in the country to 7th, I don't care who you play, the worst defense in the history of Michigan football a year ago, to bring them to this point, that's pretty sensational.
It's impressive, but I think it also, and we'll see, because I don't know if Virginia Tech has the playmakers to be able to take advantage of it. But Michigan's defensive line is very, very stout. Mike Martin, Ryan Van Bergen, these guys are athletic, they're experienced, they'll be a factor. Virginia Tech's offensive line is going to have to play well, but the back 7 is where you can attack.